Welcome to A Lively Hope and my video entitled Catholics, If You Can't Stand the Heat, Stay Out of the Kitchen. Sorry. Time for something on the lighter side, a little food for thought. What are we to make of Catholics and their massive collection of saints? Granted, sainthood rewards the fruits of one's labor, those who truly cut the mustard. The Roman Martyrology, the official compendium of the Catholic Church, updated in 2001 and again in 2004, is said to contain 7,000 venerated saints and blesseds, covering these good men and women from soup to nuts. Catholics love their saints, clearly thinking them the greatest thing since sliced bread. Comb through comment sections on Catholic websites or YouTube videos to see posts calling on Saint, insert name, insert descriptor, comma, pray for, or save us, exclamation point. They go bananas over them. Admittedly, I have a neurological condition, so when I tell you I had an epiphany of sorts 4 years ago, it might just be that the right hemisphere of my brain was acting up again. But hey, half a loaf is better than none. The revelation occurred as I researched the Perseids, or Tears of St. Lawrence, as Catholics are known to call them. What are we to make of these tears? Well, life isn't always a bowl of cherries. The Perseids, cream of the crop of meteor showers, return to the skies yearly and generally peak close to August 10th, the canonical date of St. Lawrence's martyrdom in 258 AD. And in spite of my mother's attempts to encourage an interest in saints during my childhood, by way of an illustrated book many of us remember, I've just never acquired a taste for them. My father's name was Lawrence, though, so years ago I decided to read a few translations of early Latin accounts of the saint with a bit more relish than I might otherwise have had. Those unacquainted with St. Lawrence are encouraged to do their own research, if for no other reason than to verify I'm not as nutty as a fruitcake for what I'm about to tell you. The cut-and-dried legend of Lawrence goes a bit like this, and I promise not to sugarcoat it. Pope Sixtus II, the big enchilada, named Lawrence Archdeacon of Rome, a title carrying responsibility for managing the treasury of the church and distributing alms to the poor, otherwise known as chief cook and bottle washer. Roman Emperor Valerian, in an attempt to stir the pot, issued an edict ordering the death of bishops, priests, and deacons, after which Pope Sixtus II was detained and summarily executed. After this event, the prefect of Rome, who was clearly a bad egg, demanded that Lawrence hand over the riches of the church on a silver platter. Lawrence claimed it couldn't be done in short order, so asked for 3 days to comply, during which time he is said to have gathered up the indigent, the crippled, the blind, and the suffering, and bestowed upon them all the riches of the church. Essentially, he cooked the books. On the 3rd day, as cool as a cucumber, Lawrence presented these people to the prefect while stating, "Behold in these poor persons the treasures which I promised to show you, to which I will add pearls and precious stones, those widows and consecrated virgins who are the church's crown." While bold and righteous, Lawrence's demonstration was clearly a recipe for disaster. The prefect, wholly unimpressed, couldn't stomach the perceived insolence, so while simmering with rage, ordered Lawrence to be slowly roasted to death over hot coals while restrained and pinned to a gridiron. Out of the frying pan and into the fire, Lawrence, before giving up the ghost, is said to have cheerfully remarked, "Let my body be now turned, one side is broiled enough." And this was no half-baked notion on Lawrence's part, but rather intended to show he could not be defeated, even in death. And while the prefect also wanted Lawrence to turn over certain books and records, he refused to spill the beans regarding their location. The prefect is ultimately made to eat crow, proving there's no such thing as a free lunch. To be sure, the legend is a bit of a hot potato. Modern scholars dispute the early stories of Lawrence's grilling on the basis of what they believe to be a missing P in Latin accounts. Details of Lawrence's death, though, were recorded by Pope Damasus, Aurelius Clemens Prudentius, St. Ambrose, and St. Augustine, and described in the Passio Vetus. Ubiquitous statues of St. Lawrence, most depicting him holding a gridiron, are merely icing on the cake. And the gridiron legend appears on Vatican websites. In fact, it's reported that the Vatican displays the head of St. Lawrence yearly on his feast day. While not as black as a skillet, it's often described as being burnt, though obviously not to a crisp. A martyred St. Lawrence, clearly salt of the earth, was a big cheese in early Christianity. The church constructed over his tomb, St. Lawrence outside the walls, became one of the 7 principal churches in Rome and marks a favored location where early Christians made pilgrimage and chewed the fat with like-minded people. And lest you think I'm completely out to lunch, the marble slab his body is said to have been placed on after grilling is in the Basilica of St. Lawrence outside the walls. And a portion of the gridiron he is said to have been roasted on is in the Church of St. Lawrence in Lucina. Sink your teeth into that factoid. In honor of St. Lawrence and respecting my Irish heritage, I offer the following limerick, and it's clean. The legend of Lawrence, are you aware? Church Archdeacon with courage to spare. He said without boasting while violently roasting, turn me over, I'm still a bit rare. And one more for good measure. There was a young deacon named Larry, who even while roasting was merry. He said with a grin, while basting his skin, this gridiron is quite culinary. Lawrence, obviously no flash in the pan, is noted as the patron saint of cooks and chefs. Next time you're tailgating at Notre Dame, before the Irish face Boston College on the gridiron, throw a couple of ribeyes on your red-hot charcoal grill, while the fat is sizzling and dripping onto the coals, causing flames to leap up and singe the hair on your fingers. Solemnly fold your hands and entreat, St. Lawrence, patron of chefs and cooks, pray for us. And please, grill those steaks to medium rare. Anything hotter would be a sin. Thanks for watching. I realize you probably have bigger fish to fry. And a bonus limerick for those who made it this far. The Heisman Committee was candid. To Lawrence the trophy is handed. His gridiron showing had all the fans crowing. One turnover is all the man did.